Let's create our first application with Visual Studio. So the first thing we do is we open Visual Studio for Windows. So we'll look it up here in the programs. You can have a shortcut. You can ask Cortana to open it, whatever, right? So here's Visual Studio. We'll open it. So once it opens, right, it'll have this get started project, whatnot. But we can just start a new, what's called in Visual Studio, a new solution, right? So we'll start a new solution by going to File, the File menu, and then we're going to create a new solution, which is going to be a new web application. So this is how we do this. We go to File menu, go to New, and then from New we click on Website. We want to build a new website. And then Visual Studio is going to ask us whether we want an empty website or what kind of website do we want. So here we say we're going to build our website with Visual C# for the server code, and we're going to build an ASP.NET empty website. Okay. Then we click OK. This is the directory in which it will be located, and then we click OK. So once we click there, a solution has been created for us. Solution website for solutions are just a way to organize different work units called projects. Okay, we're going to have one project with one solution for this video. So we have, this is the layout. Let me tell you a little bit about Visual Studio. We have File, Edit, View menu. With the View menu, you can view several different perspectives, different screens that you can have. For example, if you want a database, a cloud, server, team, object browser, and so on and so forth, you can open this little windows here with the View menu. There's the website menu for a web application, right, where you can build more of this website if you add items and whatnot. We can get a lot of that by right-clicking on our project. Build, this is how to create our website. Debug is again for debugging, team, tools, testing, analyze. So this is, efficiency and so on. And then, different windows. And then here you have several controls, right? So your typical file and save all, etc. Now, what kind of configuration you want to run, whether it's a debug configuration or a different one in any CPU, or you can select the different platforms. Here, when you hit play, because it's a web application, it's going to open Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer or whatever, and then browse with that. We'll see that this control will change when we are running an application, because when we hit run, then the application can be stopped or paused, and you will see those buttons here. And then this is output, exceptions and errors in the code. These are properties of every object we've selected over in this Solution Explorer. So let's run and start our first application. On the website, on the project name, I'm going to right-click, click on Add, and then on Add, I'm going to add a web form. So it's a very simple web page. I'm going to call it default.aspx. The .aspx is added by default, but this is the first page that opens on a website, so it's like your index. Now, we'll notice a few things about this web page. Here's the form tag, right? And this form has this run at server little tag. This basically says that I'm going to make this form 1 object visible on server-side code. The same thing for the head and so on and so forth. So let's design our little web page. For this web page, I'm going to add an input tag, right, of type text. As you can see, there's help all the time. Type text. And then I need to give this an ID, and my ID is going to be Fahrenheit. Why? Because I'm going to create a little converter. You enter the temperature in Fahrenheit and it will convert to Celsius. It's very simple. So I'll create, this text ID Fahrenheit, and then I want to make this component available to server-side code so I can manipulate it. So I'm going to say run at server, and then close it. All right, and then with that input, also a submit button. So input type submit. This is standard HTML, right? Now here the value, which is what the button will say on it, it'll say convert, because I want to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit. I'm going to say that also run at server. I want its action to be caught by the server too, and I want to be able to access this if I ever want to. But that's it, and that's it for now. Now it's going to run at server, but what is going to run when I hit submit? What's going to get run at server? We're going to add that piece later. Now that's my form, and then when I convert the degrees that you input in the input text, I'm going to display the degrees in a span tag that I'm going to run at server, and this span tag I'm going to call it answer. So again, to recap, you will enter the temperature in Fahrenheit degrees here. You will click submit, and then the Celsius temperature will be displayed in this span tag. Okay? That's all good. Now, the thing though is that I need code in the server to do this. So in the head here, I'm going to create a script tag that's going to be run at server. So it's server-side code. Now my server-side code is in C#. I just put it up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a private function. It's going to be void because I'm just going to change components. I'm not going to return the results. Convert to Celsius. That's going to be my function. Now, convert to Celsius will take two parameters that are sort of standard for functions from a form submission. The first parameter is of type object, and it's going to be called sender. And the second parameter is an event argument. So what event trigger this function, which is going to be E. I'm not going to use any of these, but they have to be here if they're going to be the object of a form submission. Now, what I'm going to do first is that the Fahrenheit degrees here are in a text input, and that is a string. So I need to convert that to a double. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a double variable called F for Fahrenheit. And that is going to be equal to convert that to double. And then what am I going to convert as a double? What I'm going to convert is this, is Fahrenheit.value. So here's something interesting. This Fahrenheit, this ID, now because it's run at a server, this Fahrenheit is now a variable. It's an object that I can access on my server code, and I'll just get the value of it. Then once that is computed, right, I'm going to create a double Celsius, which is going to be the Fahrenheit degrees minus 32 times 5 divided by 9. That's just the formula to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to display this in the span tag that we had. Remember how the ID is answer, so I can answer. I can use answer dot, and then inner HTML. Look at the case here, it's important. So in the answer inner HTML, I'm going to put Celsius as a string. It's a quick way to get Celsius as a string. And that's my function. Now, the last piece that I need to fix here is that when I hit submit, I call this function. So right after here, run at server, what I'm going to do is on server click. So when I click this, I'm going to go onto the server and process this. On server click, the function I'm going to call is this one here. So convert to Celsius. And that is all the code that I need to get a client submitting code and then this to Celsius function being processed in the server. This looks a lot like JavaScript, and you could do this with JavaScript not doing anything particular on the server. However, here, because this is server code, I could be accessing a database, I could be doing stuff that I cannot do plainly with JavaScript, or so easily with JavaScript. I could access server resources here. So let's run it, and when we run it, it automatically saves it. So we'll run it and see what happens. Hey, Sia, you got it? You got it? Okay, good. Oh, no, you're fine. No problem. Have a good one, Sia. Bye, Sia. So here we have the web page with our convert button. So we can enter some text. Let's say we know 32 degrees Fahrenheit is 0 Celsius. Let's see if that works. So we click convert, and we get the 0 here. I know that is 100 degrees is also 37.7 degrees. This all seems to be working, and that you have, and the flow of this is that this 100 goes to the server. The server does the transformation and outputs this. So the source code of this page has no code whatsoever. I mean, no C# code whatsoever.